all this stuff, but somebody in here might agree with me. There could be a room full of a dozen babies crying, and you know if that's your baby or not. Put it out of my mind. Study, study, study. Pass my exam. Highest score in the class. Big deal. My reward, I get to come back the next day and make 200 phone calls. Goes on for months. And one night, 1 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock at the door. And you know who that is. It's my ex. And the conversation is very brief and to the point. I can't do this anymore here. And left my son with me. Just like that, that's how we became homeless. The boarding house did not allow children. That's what I meant when I said life happens. My son and I were instantly evicted. We joined a class of people invisible even among homeless people. It is estimated that 12% of all the homeless people in America have jobs and go to work every day. In some communities, that number is as high as 30%. Working families homeless. I'm not talking about the guys outside with the cups. You didn't see us because we were at work. And those numbers I just mentioned, by the way, 12 and 30, those were the official numbers published by the government 2 years ago. Those are the numbers we used in the new book, Start Where You Are. We all know what's happened in the last 2 years. Before we began filming Pursuit of Happiness, it was very important to Will Smith and I that he see, smell, and touch places my son and I had to live for a year. To his credit, biggest movie star in the world cannot go any place without a 4-man security detail. He says, no, it's me and you. Let's go for a walk. 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, through the streets of San Francisco. The very first place I took him was down into the subway system. And he's such a bright guy, the first thing he says to me, so a lot of these people look like they dressed to go someplace. Yeah? Well, a lot of them were dressed to get up and go to work in the morning. My son and I, instantly evicted, did the only thing that we could do. We moved into a series of hotels, $25 a day and a color TV. Do the math, you're making $1,000 a month gross. And that man wants his $25 a day cash every day, Saturday and Sunday. It won't work. We moved downstream, $10 a day on a black and white TV. Imagine who's living next door to you and your baby for $10 a day. It's a different world. It won't work. My son and I have begun to go to church every day. Glad Memorial Church, Reverend Cecil Williams. Every day, food for the soul. But just as importantly, food. Because in the basement of that church is something called Moe's Kitchen, where they serve 1 million meals a year to people who were in need. My son and I were in need. We ate more than our share, especially my son. My son today, 6 feet 8 inches tall, weighs 350 pounds. That all started in the basement of that church. I tell the Reverend every time I see him, you ought to let folks know what could happen to their kids. Last year we celebrated 45 years of his service to that church and that community. And he let me know a few years ago he had never seen a man standing in the food line with a baby. He's seen women with children, he'd never seen a man. And he'd come up to me every day and ask me the same 2 questions. What you doing with that baby? Well, it's my baby. But what you gonna do with it? I'm gonna keep it. I've been asked many, many times, why didn't you give the baby to your mother? Well, you know what? That was not my mother's baby. That was my baby. And I made that promise to myself as a 5-year-old boy, when I grow up and come up here and have children, my children will know who their father is. Well, sometimes in your life, you get a chance to walk the walk. And the Reverend started the very first homeless hotel in America. 2 blocks away from Neiman Marcus, 2 blocks away from Gucci in downtown San Francisco is the beginning of one of the worst ghettos in the country. It's called the Tenderloin. He started this program for homeless women with children. But he says to me, you know what? I see something. You homeless, but you're not hopeless. Y'all gonna stay here with us. Here's the deal at the homeless hotel. You gotta be out by 8 a.m. You cannot come in before 6 p.m. You're either going to work or you're going to look for work. When you leave the room, take everything in the room that's yours with you. It's first come, first serve. No guarantee there'll be a room here when you come back. Many nights, there weren't. Every day for a year, you would see me, my son, his stroller, a duffel bag with all his clothes in them, my briefcase, the biggest bag of Pampers in the world, one suit in my back, one suit in the hanging bag, and we hit it. Every day for a year. And I did say Pampers. Major difference between reality and the film. In the film, J.D. Smith plays my son as a 5-year-old. They did that for the dialogue. My son was 14 months old. That changes everything. I had 2 suits, one blue, one gray. The joke around the office started, oh, that's Chris Gardner, he's reenacting the Civil War. Some days he's with the North, some days he's with the South. It's funny now, that shit wasn't funny at the time. I promise myself, one day it's going to be different. All that running you saw Will Smith do in the movie, all that running was real. Think about it. I'm working commission-only sales, and I know if I stay on this phone another 5 minutes, I can get this commission. But if I stay on the phone another 5 minutes, I'm going to miss the bus. And if I miss the bus, I'm late to the center. If I'm late to the center, I'm late to the shelter. If I'm late to the shelter, there's no more rooms. Being a young father, committed to breaking the cycle of men who are not there for their children, there were days I chose to stay on that phone. And that meant we slept wherever we could, which included train stations, bus terminals, hotel lobbies, outside in the park in Union Square if the weather permitted, airports. This was pre-9/11. There was nothing unusual. I mean, the airports were open 24 hours. There was nothing unusual about seeing a man, a baby, and a whole bunch of bags. My one residual hang-up that I have from this experience and time in my life, I got this thing about bags. I got a room in my house with nothing but bags in it. If it doesn't have a hole in it, if you can tie a knot in it, that's a good bag. The one thing my son remembers, and it was Oprah, when we finally did her show, she asked him, what's the one thing you remember about this time in your life? And what he said made my soul smile. What he said was, all I remember is every time I looked up, my father was there.